My beloved child, open your heart to receive the sacred stream flowing down from heaven. Tonight is a rendezvous appointed since the foundation of the world. I have seen each teardrop that fell upon your pillow. I have heard the sighs in your long nights, and I know well the relentless longing in your soul for a healing that surpasses all human means. Your footsteps through hospital corridors, the prescriptions and medical directives, all are testimony to your tireless effort to reclaim wholeness of life. O child, where human hands cease, my infinite power begins. Believe that healing is not a remote thing or merely a memory of Scripture, but a living reality unfolding here in this very breath. For I am the one who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Hebrews 1:3-8. In this deep, silent place I draw near to lift the veil from truths you have not yet perceived. People often think miracles happen only to the fortunate or to those recorded in holy history. But I tell you plainly, you too are within that current of miracles. When I looked at Abraham, he was an ordinary man amid many gods, yet faith made him the father of nations. When I touched Moses, he was a shepherd in the desert, yet through his hands the sea was parted and my people walked on dry ground. And when I called David the young shepherd boy, he became the victor over Goliath. So tonight, my beloved, I look upon you with that same powerful gaze. No matter how weak, small, or unworthy you feel, it is in your brokenness that my grace is fully revealed. Know that no illness can escape my embrace, no darkness can prevent the light I shine. Imagine as parched earth longs for the first rain, so your body and soul wait for the life-giving water I bestow. I am the unfailing spring, the river that never ceases. When you widen your heart, that stream will flood in, cleansing the grime, washing away the traces of pain, and penetrating to the roots where life has withered. Cells that are failing will be restored, exhausted vessels will be replenished, trembling nerves will find new rhythm. But the miracle does not stop at the body. It erupts in the spirit, where you will find an unshakable peace. As I promised through the prophet Isaiah, I will give you comfort and grant you peace like a river. Isaiah 6:6-1-2. Let that promise become a sweet melody in your soul, so that every heartbeat echoes the song of new life. My beloved, I know that behind the physical pain lie deep wounds of the heart. The body only reflects part of the burdens you have carried through the years. Memories of failure times you felt abandoned. The doubtful voices within these have woven a wall separating you from peace. You have tried to drive them away by your own strength, but the harder you struggle, the tighter they cling. Tonight I want to tear down that wall. I want to free you from the invisible chains so you may enter true liberty. For my promise has not changed. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:3-2. You need not live as a prisoner in your own soul. I paid the price so you might be free, and that freedom begins the moment you choose to release it into my hands. I see moments when you doubt, wondering whether miracles will come to you, whether these promises are illusory. But understand, faith is not born of sight, but of hearing. When you incline your ear to my word and open your heart to receive, an unseen power begins to work within you. It does not depend on immediate feelings, nor require instant proof. Faith is stepping onto the water, as Peter did, because his eyes were fixed on me rather than the raging waves. Walk in that way, and you will find the surface of the water becomes a firm foundation beneath your feet. Worries that once encircled you are like a darkness filling a room, but a single small light dispels the night. I am that light. When you open the door to me, nothing can bar the influx of light. You will see the shadows that frightened you for so long to be mere illusions. They hold no true power when I dwell within you. Tonight I want to touch the deepest places where you have hidden scars and old wounds. Lay them bare to the light, and you will discover they can no longer control your life. The healing I grant is not merely the removal of pain, it is the gift of a new heart and a new vision. You may have seen yourself as weak and trampled by fate, but I call you by a new name, chosen, beloved, empowered. In my sight, you are not the sum of your failures, but a living testimony to victorious grace. When you believe this, you will no longer be imprisoned by regret or shame, but will walk in courage and freedom. Tonight, I want to sow in your heart a seed of hope, not the empty hopes of the world, but a steadfast trust in my promises. When you nourish that seed with prayer and fidelity, it will grow into a tree of life that shades both soul and body. From there, you will become an encouragement to others, a living proof that healing is real and that my love is not reserved for some, but is for all who know and receive. When you tend that seed, it will flourish, and others will see that healing belongs to anyone who comes in faith. My child, I see you still clutching old memories, and I know healing cannot be complete until you are willing to let go. Like the man by the pool at Bethesda who had waited for years but could not step down, you too may be stuck in endless waiting. But I say, rise up, take up your mat, and walk. To do so, you must abandon the old mindset, leave behind the habit of lamenting, and open yourself to a new chapter. I do not call you to live as a victim, but to become a living witness of my power. Do not mistake letting go for weakness. To relinquish is to hand me burdens that are beyond your strength. When you cling to bitterness, regret, or fear, they are like stones bound to your feet, keeping you from moving. But when you cast them into my hands, you will be lightened as a bird, soaring above the abyss. Tonight, entrust every burden to me, no matter how small or great. Nothing is too trivial for my care, and nothing is too heavy for me to bear. True transformation begins in the mind. When your thoughts are renewed, your whole life is changed. Paul exhorted, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Romans 1:2-2. That means you no longer think according to the patterns of sickness and defeat, but begin to view yourself through the lens of grace and wholeness. Each day you choose to trust the promise, your mind is reshaped, and gradually your body reflects that change. This is the process I am working within you, not merely a moment, but a lifelong journey. I know you sometimes fear your faith is insufficient, that you are weak and easily shaken, and that a miracle will pass you by. But I tell you, faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. The issue is not the measure of your faith, but the one in whom you place it. Like electricity through a thin wire, power does not depend on the wire but on the source. So cling to the connection. Leave the rest for me to accomplish. When my light fills you, it not only heals the present but also illuminates the future. You will see doors that once were shut now opening. Dreams you thought dead will be revived. Broken relationships will be mended. I do not merely desire for you to survive illness. I desire that you live abundantly, full and flourishing. As Jesus said, I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly. John 10:10. Take hold of that promise as the compass for your new journey. Picture the morning after you awaken, not burdened as before, but filled with vitality. Each step will be lighter, each breath infused with new strength. You will view the world not through fearful eyes, but with hope. You will see opportunities waiting, knowing I go before you to open the way, I follow to guard, and I stand beside you to uphold. From this day on, you will not walk alone. I am the one who leads, the one who goes before to make a path, the one who walks behind to protect, and the one who walks beside to sustain. Let thanksgiving fill your heart. Gratitude is not only for when results appear, but even while you wait. Thanksgiving opens the door for miracles to pour forth. When you lift a voice of thanks, you declare my faithfulness, that my promises are sure, and that outcome depends not on circumstances, but on the fidelity of the Eternal One. Gratitude turns night into dawn, tears into song, anxiety into joy. Be assured, the healing you seek is not some distant possibility, but a living reality beginning within you now. All you need is to open your heart, say yes to me, and allow faith to lead. Tonight is the intersection of past and future, where suffering ends and a new chapter begins. Step into that chapter with courage, for I have already written the ending, and it is an ending of victory. My dear one, when healing flows, it not only restores what was lost, but raises up what you never knew you possessed. My grace does more than bind wounds. It unveils a new horizon for you to walk into. Like land after rain cleansed and fertile, your soul after tonight will be ready to bear fresh fruit. You thought your dreams were extinguished, but I say they were only sleeping, and now I breathe life into them. You thought youth had passed, but I declare that today is the dawn of a new season. Recall the woman who had suffered hemorrhage for 12 years. She did not hesitate to push through the crowd to touch the hem of his garment. Mark 5:25-34. One touch of faith transformed her life. My beloved, I want you to see yourself in her story. You have journeyed many years, tried many ways, carried hopes that faltered. Yet now, by a moment of faith, your whole story is rewritten. What physicians could not accomplish, I accomplished in an instant. What medicine cannot reach, my power heals from the root. You are not only restored in body, but are returned to freedom in soul and mind. My restoration is not for your sake alone, but so you may be a witness to others. Imagine yourself as a lighthouse standing on the shore, its beam guiding lost ships through the storm. Your life after tonight will be testimony that I still act, still heal, still bless. When others see the light in your eyes, the peace upon your face, the joy in your smile, they will ask, "What happened?" And you will say, "The Lord touched me." Thus the miracle does not end with you, but ripples outward, reaching countless souls longing for hope. Do not keep this to yourself. Tell your story, the tale of tears turned into laughter, of darkness into dawn, of weakness transformed into strength. This is a treasure no one can take, and it becomes the instrument through which I open hearts. Do not fear imperfect words. Power does not lie in eloquence, but in the living truth within you. As you share, the Holy Spirit will empower your words, and each testimony will touch places reason cannot reach. Tonight, I want you to understand that healing is not merely a destination, but the beginning of an enriched journey. You will learn to live with a body that is honored, a renewed mind, and a liberated spirit. You will care for yourself as a sacred dwelling, choosing nourishing food speech that gives life and actions that sow blessing. These are not burdens, but the natural rhythm of a restored life. As you walk in this newness, temptations to doubt will return and whispers of fear will try to creep back. Remember, I have placed a fire within you. That flame will never be extinguished if you keep it alive through prayer, my word, and fellowship with those of like faith. Do not journey alone. Seek out brothers and sisters who share your longing to encourage and uphold one another. As iron sharpens iron and fire rekindles fire, you will find communion strengthening your faith. I do not promise that after tonight you will face no trials, but I promise those trials will no longer have the power to defeat you. They will become the material through which your faith deepens and your testimony is clarified. With each victory, you will inspire those faltering around you. This is the meaning of healing, not merely to survive, but to live for a purpose. You will become my extended hand, giving love, sowing hope, and bringing light to dark places. Walk with open eyes, an open heart, and hands ready. Let each look you give convey life. Let each word you speak bring comfort. Let each deed plant seeds of love. You will no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstance, but as an ambassador of the miraculous. Tell your story not to mourn the past, but to proclaim present victory. Each day you live will prove that my love is greater than suffering, that the life I give is stronger than death, and that the healing I grant transcends every hurt. My beloved child, the healing I grant is not the final outcome, but a doorway that opens into a sacred school where you will be trained to become more mature in the Spirit. Many seek miracles only to escape suffering, but I call you further to turn suffering itself into your teacher, that you may learn lessons which cannot be found in prosperity, but only discovered in the valleys of trials. Every tear you shed is not in vain. They are like drops of dew, softening the parched soil, preparing it for the seeds of humility, compassion, and inner strength to spring forth. First of all, let us speak of humility. You once believed that your own strength could withstand everything that your will was sufficient to overcome. Yet when your body weakened, when sickness wore you down, you came to recognize your own limits. And it is precisely within those limits that you learned humility. Humility is not lowering yourself, but acknowledging that you are not the center of the universe that you need, one greater than yourself. When you walk in humility, you open your heart to receive strength from on high. As Paul once confessed, "When I am weak, then I am strong," 2 Corinthians 1:2-10. That saying may appear paradoxical, but in truth it is the key to entering into deeper healing. In weakness you discover the abundance of my grace. In limitation you discover the boundlessness of my power. Then along this journey, you also learn compassion. When you taste pain, you can no longer remain indifferent to the suffering of others. In the past, perhaps you only saw the surface, only heard the cries, but did not truly understand. Yet after you have walked through your own valley, your heart becomes softer, your eyes open wider, and your ears grow keener to hear the cries of your fellow men. Compassion is not only to sympathize, but to share, to lift, to walk alongside. In compassion, you become a channel through which my love flows to others. You will realize that the miracle you receive is never for yourself alone, but to become a blessing for many. And then you will also learn inner strength. This strength does not come from muscle, nor from external means, but from steadfastness within the soul. When storms rage, when everything outward is shaken, it is inner strength that keeps you standing firm. That strength is rooted in the unshakable assurance that I am with you, that I govern every circumstance, that no pain is meaningless. It is like the roots of a tree burrowing deep into the earth. No matter how fierce the wind, the tree remains upright. Each time you choose faith over fear, hope over despair, thanksgiving over complaint, you are training inner strength. My child, look back and see that these lessons are gifts hidden within suffering. The world often flees from pain, but I transform it into a stepping stone for maturity. I do not create sickness, but I use it as material to refine you. As fire tests gold and hammer shapes steel, so are you refined to become an instrument useful in my hand. After trials, you do not only emerge stronger in body, but deeper in spirit, richer in love, and firmer in faith. Remember this: when I heal you, I do not heal only an individual, but I am building a witness. Through your transformation, an entire community will be encouraged. They will look at you and see that suffering is not the end, but only the road to maturity. They will learn from you that a miracle is not merely a moment, but an entire process where each day, each choice weaves into the great tapestry I am creating. Do not despise these lessons. They are more precious than silver or gold, for silver and gold will perish, but what you learn in spirit will follow you into eternity. When you step into everlasting life, what you carry will not be this body, but a soul refined, radiant as a jewel in my kingdom. My beloved child, understand this. Every tear you shed, every sleepless night, every desperate prayer whispered, none of them are wasted. I have gathered each tear, recorded each sob, and now I transform them into precious material with which to compose a profound life song. A meaningful life is not woven with the smooth silk of comfort, but with the threads of resilience, trust, and love. From the fragments I piece together a perfect picture. From failures I draw lessons to build victories. From sorrow I shape a spiritual legacy for you and for generations to come. You once thought that a meaningful life is one without suffering, but I tell you, a meaningful life is one that transforms suffering into treasure. Just as a grain of wheat must fall into the ground and die before it bears much fruit, John 1:2-4, so your life also must be. Pain must be buried, must dissolve in the soil, in order to spring forth into the fruit of love and compassion. Without trials, how could you know the value of patience? Without days of sickness, how could you treasure health and mercy? Without darkness, how could you recognize the sweetness of light? Life is not merely a chain of events strung together, but a symphony. And like a symphony, it requires both low notes and high notes, both silence and crescendos. The low notes of suffering do not ruin the music, they make the climaxes more magnificent. When you look back, you will see that the moments you thought you were collapsing were the very moments I was writing into your life's score the deepest melodies. That is why after healing you do not only step out with a sound body, but with a soul so enriched that it can reach and uplift many. Never forget, true meaning does not come from how much wealth you have, how many achievements you attain, or how many praises you receive. True meaning comes from your life becoming a living testimony of my love and my power. When others look at you and see unshakable faith, unyielding gratitude and joy blossoming out of suffering, they will long to seek that source of life. You will become a mirror in which they can recognize my face. That is the highest meaning a human life can ever reach. My child, you are called to live a life of legacy. Legacy is not only what you leave behind after leaving this world, but also the imprint you plant in every soul you meet, every word you speak, every act you perform. When you use your own suffering to lift another, you are leaving a legacy. When you recount your journey to encourage the weary, you are leaving a legacy. When you intercede for the sick and they are strengthened by your prayers, you are leaving a legacy. This is a heritage no one can steal, for it is recorded in the annals of heaven. Rise up and write a new story. A story that does not end with illness, does not close with sorrow, but continues with victory, with love, and with hope. Your life is a book that many will read. Let each page shine with light. Let each chapter overflow with faith. Do not hide what I have done for you, for that is the message I want you to proclaim. Even your smallest testimony may become the spark that changes another life. The healing I give not only changes the present, but shapes the future. From now on, you will no longer live under the shadow of the past, but in the light of hope. You will no longer be defined by weakness, but by my grace. You will no longer wait passively, but walk actively in mission. Each day, each moment, you will find fresh strength to live a full, meaningful, and blessed life. Etch this truth in your heart: a meaningful life is not a perfect life, but a transformed one. Therefore, do not fear the scars that remain. They are not signs of failure, but marks of victory. They tell the story you have walked, and they remind you that I am the healer. Each scar is a line in the narrative of my grace. And when others see your scars, they will know if I have done it for you, I can do it for them as well. My beloved, understand that the joy of restoration does not remain with you alone, but radiates outward like sunlight, warming an entire field. I give you this joy, so it may become a legacy, so that the next generation can look upon your life and see a testimony of my kindness. When you recount your journey to your children, to the young who are seeking their way, that very story will sow faith within them. They will see that suffering is not the end, that darkness is not destiny, and that hope can rise again even in the most desperate circumstances. The joy of restoration is utterly different from the shallow joy the world advertises. The world's joy is like a flame that flares briefly and dies, but the joy I give is a torch that burns on illuminating the whole journey. That joy is not conditioned by wealth, status, or ease. It endures even when storms rage because its source is in me, the one who never changes. You may realize that in the past, you sought joy in passing things, a compliment, a success, a material comfort. Yet those joys all abandoned you when circumstances shifted. Now you have learned that true joy is when your soul is bound to the eternal source of life. My child, the joy of restoration is also a call into a new rhythm of life. In the past, you lived in worry and fear and heaviness. Now I invite you into the rhythm of thanksgiving and praise. Let every morning begin with gratitude. Gratitude that you can still breathe, still see, still have the chance to love and be loved. Let every evening close with praise. Praise that I have been with you through the day, preserving you, granting you strength and peace. When this rhythm becomes your habit, you will find your life lifted higher, no longer tossed by circumstance. Do not think of joy as something small. It is a powerful instrument that can transform the world around you. A word spoken with joy can uphold a soul about to collapse. A radiant smile can warm a frozen heart. A joyful act of service can open the door for love to seep into barren ground. I give you the joy of restoration, so that you may become one who sows seeds of gladness, so that wherever you go, the atmosphere itself is changed. Remember, light does not need to strive with darkness. It only needs to appear, and darkness flees. Likewise, when you carry true joy, you need not struggle to persuade. The joy itself will naturally bear witness of me. Be certain that this joy of restoration will sustain you even in trials yet to come. It does not mean you will never face difficulty again. But the difference is this: now you have a solid foundation to walk through them. When new challenges arise, you will not tremble as before, but smile, knowing that the one who gave you joy will never forsake you. You will find yourself more steadfast, more enduring, more strong. My child, this joy is the affirmation that your life is no longer defined by dark days but by my light. Walk in that light. Let it shine into every decision, every relationship, every dream. Let it be the stream that nourishes you and flows outward to others. Then the joy of restoration will not only be a fleeting experience, but an eternal legacy written into the memory of heaven and earth. My beloved child, recognize that this joy is not merely a state of emotion, but the rebirth of life at its very root. When I lay a new foundation within you, I do not only change how you feel, but how you see the world, how you face adversity, and how you love others. This joy is like a new spring gushing up from within you, coloring every aspect of life with brightness. It does not depend on perfect circumstances, but on the certainty that you have been touched by the divine hand. In the past, when sorrow still hemmed you in, you often saw each day as nothing more than another trial to endure. But now, when the joy of restoration has taken root, you will see each day as an opportunity to sing a hymn of praise. Every breath becomes evidence of new life. Every glance becomes a sign of light rising. Every step becomes a testimony that darkness cannot overcome the light. You will realize that even in the simplest tasks, a meal, a conversation, a moment of rest, everything now carries new meaning. For when your heart overflows with joy, every action is infused with life. The joy of restoration also transforms how you remember the past. Instead of viewing the years of suffering with fear or regret, you will see them as golden pages of a story completed. Those pages may still bear the blurred ink of tears, yet it is they that make your book true, beautiful, and meaningful. When you tell it, you will no longer speak with trembling, but with certainty that no matter how deep the darkness, my light has always been stronger. And the very way you recall the past with joy will uplift many, for in you they will see proof that all sorrow can be turned into blessing. The joy the world offers lasts only until circumstances change, but the joy of restoration I give grows with you. It is like an ancient tree, sprouting from a small seed, growing to cast wide shade. Though storms blow, it does not break, for its roots are deep in the fertile soil of my love. As you nurture joy through prayer, thanksgiving, and sharing, it will spread and bear much fruit, the fruit of peace, kindness, patience, and resilient faith. And my child, this joy is not only for the present, but it opens the way for the future. It gives you courage to dream again, to begin anew, to live for noble purposes. Once fear held you back, thinking yourself too weak. But now, with the joy of restoration, you will find your steps firm. This joy will drive you forward, not as one wounded, but as one victorious. Let this joy of restoration be the torch in your hand. Lift it high to shine not only on your own path, but for those around you. Some may be walking in the darkness you once knew. Some may be despairing, thinking their lives are over. But when they see the light in your eyes, the smile on your lips, and hear the story you tell, they will believe that miracles still exist. And thus the joy of restoration will not only transform one life, but many lives, becoming a living legacy passed on from generation to generation. My beloved child, there is one thing you must understand. The joy you now hold did not come from days of calm, but from the very storms you have endured. This joy is not fragile like an autumn leaf, easily falling, but steadfast like a rock, weathered by centuries of tempest. It was suffering itself that became the cradle to nurture joy. It was loss that became the soil for hope to sprout. It was in your very falls that I placed the stepping stones for you to stand firm in the present. Therefore, my child, never despise the dark days that have passed, for without them you would never taste the depth of joy you now know. The first lesson that suffering teaches you is humility. When your body is powerless, when medicine offers no answers, when your prayers seem unanswered, you realize that you are not the master of life. You are compelled to bow, to acknowledge your smallness, and it is precisely in that bowing that you truly look up to the Almighty. Humility is not a lowering of your worth, but a correct recognition of your true place before the Most High. From humility, the joy of restoration is sown, for only in soft soil can seeds sprout. As Psalm 3:4-18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He saves those who are crushed in spirit." When you learn humility, you also learn how to let joy take root deep within your soul. The second one, suffering, teaches you compassion. When you have not experienced illness or pain, it is easy to judge or remain indifferent to the suffering of others. But when you walk through the darkness yourself, you understand the loneliness of the hospital, the sighs in the night, the anxious glances of loved ones. From this understanding, you become gentler, more patient, ready to extend your hand to lift others. Compassion transforms your joy into a cool stream for those around you. That joy no longer remains confined within you, but flows like a river through parched lands. Others will see in your eyes and in your smile a sincere empathy, and it carries a healing power as potent as any spoken word. The third one, suffering, teaches you inner strength. You may have once thought that strength came from controlling circumstances, external success, or the ability to impose your will. But when all external things collapse, you discover another source of power, steadfastness within. Inner strength is neither loud nor ostentatious, but enduring. It is the small flame that continues to burn on a cold, windy night. It is the steady heartbeat amid anxiety. It is the whisper that says, "I am with you," even when you feel utterly alone. This strength allows you to rise again, to continue walking, and eventually to find an unshakable joy. All these lessons, humility, compassion, inner strength, intertwine and form the solid foundation for the joy of restoration. Without them, joy is fleeting. But when built upon these profound lessons, joy becomes a lasting legacy. It is like a house, not merely beautiful on the outside, but with a firm foundation, strong pillars and a sturdy roof. Even when storms return, the house stands firm because it is built on rock, not sand. Look at your own life. In the past, every pain only made you feel small, defeated, and hopeless. But now, in retrospect, you see that these pains taught you to cherish the small, to love others, to rely on me rather than bear the burden alone. The joy you have today is not cheap. It has been purchased with tears, with trials, with long nights. and for this reason it is exceedingly precious. Beloved, suffering does not diminish your value, but is the soil in which I plant good seeds. Every time you cry, I water these seeds. Every time you falter, I till the soil for them. And now these seeds have sprouted into the tree of joy, growing tall and strong. This tree will bear fruit not only for you, but for all those you encounter. A word of comfort, a hug, a prayer you offer to someone else, all are the fruits of this tree of joy. The world will always try to define you by your suffering, but I define you by your restorative joy. The world says you are weak. I say you are strong in me. The world says you are abandoned. I say you are chosen. The world says you have failed. I say you are victorious. When you walk according to my definition, restorative joy becomes the clearest mark to everyone around you. Restorative joy is not merely for your enjoyment today, it prepares you for tomorrow. It will be the guiding lamp, the sustaining strength, the song that nourishes your spirit. It will also be the legacy you leave for those who come after. When they see you, they will know that miracles are real, that enduring joy exists, and that God still works in this world. My beloved child, when the fullness of restorative joy flows through your soul, you will see that your life is no longer as it was. It is no longer confined by the memories of pain, nor limited to physical healing. This joy becomes the material with which to write a new life, a life of meaning, permanence, and lasting blessing. I do not heal you merely to return you to the old cycle, but to step into a new phase where every experience, even wounds, becomes living testimony to my love. The scars on your body or in your soul are not marks of failure but proof of victory. They are like the golden seams in Japanese pottery, where broken shards are mended with gold, transforming cracks into unique beauty. Likewise, I have mended your life with grace, and these scars now shine as evidence that darkness could not defeat you. When someone sees these scars, they will read my story in your life, a story of hope rising above despair, of light conquering darkness. Look at the witnesses in Scripture. Joseph was sold into slavery, deceived and forgotten in prison, yet he became an instrument to save his people. Had he not endured hardship, how could he have been patient, wise, and compassionate in Pharaoh's court? David, too, was hunted and wandered the wilderness in loneliness, but the desert forged him into a king who placed trust in me. Paul was shackled and beaten, yet the letters he wrote from prison continue to encourage generations of faith. They all transformed suffering into a legacy, and you, beloved, are called to do the same. The restorative joy I give you has the power to transform life into a vivid painting. If the canvas only contained bright colors, it would be flat. But when the darker shades blend in, the painting becomes rich and complete. Your life is the same. Today's joy has depth because it is woven from experiences of suffering. This joy differs from the shallow happiness of the world, for it has been refined by fire, has passed through darkness, and thus is enduring, long-lasting, and cannot be stolen. I call you not to keep this joy to yourself. Let it become a lamp, illuminating the lives of many others. There are souls on the brink of despair who need to see a living proof that miracles still exist. There are hearts closed by suffering that need testimony to open hope. When you share your journey, from the darkest days to the moment of restoration, you do not merely tell your story, but proclaim that I am still at work. In such honesty, the Holy Spirit moves, turning your words into seeds planted in the hearts of others. My beloved, restorative joy is also a call to live in a rhythm of thanksgiving. Every morning when you awaken, let your first words be of gratitude. Gratitude for breath, for sight, for a heart to love. And as the day closes, let your last words be praise, for I have kept you through the day, granting peace and strength. When you live in such a rhythm of thanksgiving, joy is no longer a fleeting moment, but a continuous stream, sustaining you in every circumstance. Imagine your life as a musical composition. The sorrowful notes of the past, Do not destroy the melody, but make the triumphant crescendos of today's joy more magnificent. I am the conductor, orchestrating both low and high notes into a perfect symphony. When you entrust your life's music to me, no note is wasted, no measure meaningless. Everything, even missteps, contributes to the greater song, a song of blessing and victory. Do not fear when challenges return. Do not think that joy will vanish when darkness comes again. Restorative joy no longer depends on circumstances. It has taken root in your soul. It is like an ember burning beneath ashes. Even if the wind blows, the fire remains. It is like an underground spring. Even in the driest season, water flows. When trials arrive, this joy will hold you firm and make you shine even brighter. Walk as one who carries joy. Let every word, every action, every glance of yours bear witness to new life. Your smile can ignite light in someone's dark day. Your encouragement can bridge a soul from the brink of despair. Your compassionate embrace can heal more than 1,000 sermons. This is how you turn joy into legacy. A legacy that does not fade, cannot be stolen, written into the eternal chronicles of heaven. This restorative joy extends into eternity. One day when you enter heaven, you will hear me say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master." Matthew 2:5-1. You will understand that every smile, every act of gratitude, every seed of joy sown on earth has been preserved in eternal memory. Then the restorative joy you lived on earth will bloom into everlasting joy in my presence. Ingrain this in your heart. Your life is no longer defined by pain but by joy. You are no longer a survivor but a victor. You no longer live in fear but in gratitude. You are no longer bound in darkness but walk in the light. Let restorative joy become the heartbeat of your life, the breath of your soul, and the legacy of your days. Live so that each day shines, each small deed carries eternal value, and your entire life becomes a hymn of glory to me. The one who turns tears into laughter, darkness into dawn, and a seemingly hopeless life into a blessed legacy that will never fade. My child, once the fire of restoration burns brightly within you, it will not stop at bringing health or peace to yourself alone. Healing is never confined to personal limits. It is the dawn of a new day, a journey outward, where you are called to become a source of light for others. Like the sun that rises not only to illuminate one mountain but spreads across fields and valleys, I do not restore you merely to stand alone but to become a light for your community. Remember, every miracle I perform in your life serves a dual purpose: to set you free and to make you a witness. You are not restored only to enjoy but to serve. You are not healed only for yourself, but to become an instrument reflecting my love. This world is filled with broken hearts, exhausted souls, and those who have lost hope. I have chosen you because you have walked the dark path. You know the taste of loneliness, and you understand the silent cries in the night. That very experience makes your witness stronger and more vivid than any sermon. The dawn of your mission begins the moment you realize that restoration is not merely a gift but also a responsibility. You are like one drawn up from the abyss. If you only focus on standing on the shore, your joy will quickly fade. But if you bend down to reach out and rescue others, that joy will multiply many times over. Therefore, I call you to step forward, even in small steps. You do not need to start with grand acts. A word of encouragement to a friend in despair, a smile to a stranger, a shared meal for the hungry, all are seeds of your mission. Remember, the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it surpasses all garden plants, becoming a tree, so that birds of the air come and perch in its branches. Matthew 1:3, 1-32. My beloved, your body is no longer a burden of worry, but a living temple for the Spirit. When I heal you, I give you a sacred gift, the opportunity to use every breath, every step, every word as an act of worship. Your life becomes an altar where daily humble sacrifices, patience, forgiveness, service become a fragrant offering. If you cherish your restored body and soul, your very existence becomes a hymn of praise. The covenant I established with you on the night of healing is not an endpoint but a beginning. Just as the Israelites did not stop at the Red Sea but began the journey to the Promised Land, so too your restoration is an exodus from darkness and the start of a sacred journey. I call you to go deeper, not merely to be saved, but to become one who brings salvation to others. This covenant is sealed, not with empty promises, but with your living experience. You have known suffering, and now you know the joy of restoration. Do not fear that you are inadequate for this mission. Do not hesitate because you feel small, lacking, or imperfect. It is precisely in weakness that my power is revealed. It is precisely in limitation that my grace is fully displayed. You do not need all the answers. You only need to step forward in faith. When you walk, I will make a way. When you say yes, I will empower you. When you reach out, I will fill you. Remember Paul's words, "When I am weak, then I am strong." 2 Corinthians 1:2-10. Your strength does not lie in your perfection, but in my presence within you. The new dawn not only illuminates your personal life, but radiates vitality to your community. When you live with restorative joy, your family will be transformed. Your smile brings laughter back to a home where it had faded. Your inner peace heals silent tensions. Your prayers for loved ones pave the way for blessings over your household. And when you step into society, gentleness in speech, sincerity in action, and patience in attitude become the yeast that raises the whole environment around you. My beloved, have courage to step out of your comfort zone. The world needs true witnesses, not just in words, but in transformed lives. I do not call you to places of ease, but to where darkness still reigns. This could be a friend in depression, a colleague burdened by family struggles, or a stranger drowning in despair. When you go carrying the light you have received, you will see that the miracle does not stop with you, but flows through you to them. From now on, you are a living letter written not with ink, but by the Spirit. Others may never have read the Bible, but they will read your life. They will see in you a story of joy, of restoration, of unwavering love. And as they read it, they will recognize me. This is the deepest meaning of your mission, not for your glory, but for my name to be glorified. Imagine it. My child, a new dawn of mission is breaking. Rise, breathe deeply, and step into that light. Remember that you are not alone. I go before you to make the way, I follow behind, to protect you, and I walk beside you to uphold you. Every step you take is imprinted with my love. Every word you speak can bring life. Every deed you do can become an instrument of miracle. From this day forward, your life is no longer only yours, but part of the great symphony of the restoration of the whole creation. My beloved, when healing has encompassed you, I do not merely want you to feel relief and breathe easy. I desire to reestablish the entire foundation of your life. For if you accept healing only for the body without allowing spiritual renewal, you will easily revert to former ways in which anxiety and meaninglessness await. The restoration I grant is not a new garment to be draped over an old self, but a root-level recreation. That is why I want you to re-examine your system of values, weigh what truly matters, and choose the path that reflects my light. Previously, you may have pursued transient aims, the praise of men, material success, or power in your work, but when illness struck, all those things proved meaningless. Only the profound questions remained. Who am I? What do I live for? If tomorrow never comes, what truly matters? It is in that ultimate place that I have sown in your heart a longing for something above all earthly values. And when you are restored, you will realize that the measure of a life is not in accumulated wealth, but in love given, faith kept, and the sacred presence you bear each day. This restoration also heals the way you see yourself. Illness once made you doubt your worth, sowed feelings of weakness, guilt, even uselessness. But now I want you to look in the mirror and see a new person. You are no longer defined by sickness, by the past, or by bodily limits. You are defined by my love and my choice. Before the world named you, I called you the beloved. Before suffering knocked at your door, I placed in you the potential to overcome and step into glory. Henceforth, when you care for your body, you will not do so out of fear of relapse, but because you understand it is a living temple of the Spirit, worthy of nurture, preservation, and honor. Restoration is also an opportunity to rebuild relationships. Illness once made you feel isolated, caused you to withdraw, or strained bonds under pressure. But now, as you are renewed, I give you a new heart to reconcile and renew relationships. You will find yourself quicker to forgive because you know the brevity of time does not allow hatred to persist. You will treasure family more because you have experienced days confined in solitude. You will learn to listen to friends because you understand the value of being present in hardship, and you will practice giving love rather than demanding it, for you have been covered by my unconditional love. Most importantly, restoration brings you into a deeper relationship with me. In the days of your suffering, you may have asked, "Where is God?" Yet now you realize I never left you. It is precisely in your weakest moments that I have been nearest. This relationship must be cultivated not only by prayers of plea in times of need, but by daily intimacy. Praying is not merely asking for what you want, but conversing together, walking together, sharing life's rhythm. As you build that intimacy, the joy of restoration will not remain a memory, but will become a continual stream, watering your spirit day by day. Do not forget that restoration has a deeper purpose: to make you a binding agent in your community. This world is cracking under selfishness, division, and indifference. You who have gone through the darkness and found the light are a living witness sown to scatter seeds of love. Wherever you go, leave traces of peace. Wherever you meet someone, leave the warmth of encouragement. When you see a broken heart, become the hands that bandage it. I do not ask you to single-handedly save the world, but I ask you to plant small seeds, and I will cause them to grow. Let restoration shape your daily posture. Do not live in fear of relapse, but in the joy of being alive today. Do not let painful memories bind you to the past. Let them become lessons that make your steps firmer for the future. Do not chase the ephemeral, but build on eternal values. When you learn to cherish each moment, to be grateful for each day, and to offer the small things to me, your life will transform into a song of thanksgiving and blessing. One day, when you look back, you will see that restoration did not only heal the body, but reshaped your whole being. It softened character, expanded vision, and deepened relationships. You will recognize that the days of suffering prepared you for present joy, and that present joy equips you for future missions. Both suffering and healing are parts of a grand design in which I weave a glorious story. So live as one who carries a legacy. Do not ask, "What do I gain?" but say, "I have received to give." You were healed to comfort others. You were restored to sow hope. You were transformed to testify that my love is real. And when you live this way, your life will have meaning beyond the present and will leave a mark in eternity. My beloved, when restoration has taken root in your life, understand that it is not for your sole enjoyment, but for creating a lasting heritage. Heritage is not merely assets left to posterity, but the imprint of a life transformed, a testimony for future generations that the divine acts in human history. When you tell your journey from darkness to restoration, your story becomes a precious patrimony that inspires children, friends, community, and even souls who have never met you, but who hear your witness. Consider Joseph. His forgiveness toward his brothers did not only rescue his family, but preserved a nation. Consider David, his psalms, composed in the wilderness, still resound through generations, nourishing the faith of millions. Consider Paul, his letters written from prison, did more than encourage the churches of his time. They formed foundations for spiritual life across centuries. Likewise, your journey does not end in the present but flows forth like a stream of grace touching generations yet to come. The legacy of restoration begins with steadfastness. When you continue to walk in joy despite new trials, when you keep trusting though circumstances may shake, that steadfastness is the strongest testimony. Faith is proved not in days of ease, but in days of fire. When others see you remain faithful and joyful, they will know your restoration is not fleeting emotion, but root-level transformation. Such endurance will inspire them to stand firm, to hope, and to step into restoration themselves. Heritage is also formed by quiet, persistent acts. No one remembers every eloquent sermon, but no one forgets a truly transformed life. When you patiently care for a relative, quietly forgive or pray for someone in silence, these are seeds of legacy, unseen, humble, and deep-rooted. One day they will blossom in another's life. Remember, legacy is not made in a moment, but in prolonged faithfulness. Know that restoration also makes you an inspirer. Some will come to you not because you are flawless, but because you were broken and lifted. They will listen because they see themselves in you. They will look into your eyes and know darkness does not have the last word. They will hear your words and believe the divine still acts. Do not be afraid to tell your story, for within it lies the power to break the chains of despair in others. I want you to engrave this. The greatest legacy you can leave is not perfection, but fidelity. You do not need to be acclaimed by all. You only need to live in obedience. When you do so, the small things in your hands become seeds of eternity, a cup of water given in love, a hidden prayer, a quiet act of service, all contribute to an indestructible legacy. Let restoration become a flame passed from generation to generation. Tell your children, tell those who follow, so they know the divine still heals, restores, and grants joy. When they hear, their faith will be kindled. When they believe, they will experience miracles. When they experience, they will tell the next generation. Thus your story becomes not only yours, but part of the grand symphony of redemption, with each generation adding its voice. Do not fear that you will stumble again. Do not worry that new trials may come. For the very restoration you have received proves that I will never abandon you. When trials come, remember the light of that miraculous night. When doubts assail, you remember the joy of restoration. When you are weak, remember that my power is perfected in weakness. As you move forward with such memories, you will not tremble but become strong as one who knows he walks in eternal light. My child, the final legacy that restoration promises is eternal glory. One day when you leave this world, you will enter my full presence. Then all suffering will vanish. Every tear will be wiped away, and every trial will become a distant memory. You will hear me say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Matthew 2:5-1. You will receive the crown of life, not because you were perfect, but because you remained faithful in restoration, living faithfully to the covenant. That glory will not fade, that joy will not perish, and that legacy will endure forever. My beloved, when I have given you healing and the joy of restoration, I do not want you to stop at a passing gratitude or to indulge in comfort for yourself. The miracle you have just experienced is not a gift to be kept in memory, but an invitation to a new stage of spiritual journey, the stage of spiritual maturity. Previously, your faith may have resembled a sapling tender and in need of shelter. Now, after the furnace and storm, that faith is called to grow into an ancient tree, anchoring roots deep into the promised soil, standing firm in tempests and spreading shade for many. Spiritual maturity is not a sudden miraculous leap, but a day-by-day formation. It begins when you change how you view your life. You will no longer see events as mere chance or luck, but will learn to perceive my providence behind every detail. What appears as loss, suffering, or failure are the stones that build the foundation of your present steadfastness. You will stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What does this want to teach me?" This shift in outlook is the first step toward maturity. Maturity also transforms how you regard the future. Previously, the future may have frightened you, prompting calculations, worry, and unrest. Now you will place tomorrow in my hands. Knowing that I could heal you in the darkest day, you will trust that I am able to sustain you through any tomorrow. This does not render you passive. Rather, it grants a peace that empowers bold action. When you know the one who holds tomorrow, you live today with confidence and serenity, no longer burdened by what-ifs and regrets, because you know I have good plans and you are in my hands. Maturity will show itself most clearly in how you understand faith. Where once faith was a life preserver you grasped only in storms, now faith becomes the rudder and lighthouse guiding the whole voyage. Faith is no longer a refuge for weakness, but the force that propels you forward. It is the light that illuminates each step in darkness. It does not remove every obstacle, but enables you to navigate them. Faith is the eagle's wing carrying you over mountains of despair. It does not make the mountains vanish, but gives you the capacity to soar. It is a root that anchors the tree in the soil so it stands firm amid the gale. As you mature, faith ceases to be a fluctuating emotion and becomes a settled assurance that cannot be shaken. I know you may still fall, but maturity is not about never falling. It is about rising each time you fall. The mature saint does not boast that he is never weak, but knows to bring weakness to me, so it may be used to strengthen faith. Even when you doubt, maturity teaches that doubt is not an enemy, but a gateway to deeper conviction if you bring that doubt before me. Like Job, who cried out in pain and questioned, yet finally discovered my power and love, in a deeper way, your questions can lead to a more profound faith. Maturity is also expressed in praise and thanksgiving even before new miracles appear. The mature believer praises not only when answers come, but sings in the valley of waiting. The mature one worships not only on the mountaintop, but in the dark ravine. When you learn such an attitude, joy will no longer be ruled by circumstances. It becomes an unquenchable fire, an unfading light that marks you out and draws others to the source of your strength. I know you will sometimes be tested, yet remember I will never leave you alone. I go before to make the way, follow behind, to protect and walk beside, to uphold. I give the Holy Spirit to guide my word, to instruct, and the community to support you. You will never be left alone in the process of growth. Each step you take makes heaven rejoice, for it signals the seed of faith becoming a great tree with deep roots and wide-reaching branches. My beloved, I want you to be alert to a subtle but dangerous enemy, the deceit of sin. Illness may exhaust your body, but sin eats away at the soul. Physical suffering can draw you closer to me, while deception drives you farther away. It seldom attacks openly. It whispers gently, promising ease and pleasure. Sin rarely strikes head-on. It seduces by delay, compromise, and small steps that gradually lead you from the light. One of the most perilous lies of sin is, "You have time." It convinces you that no decision is needed now, that tomorrow will suffice, that later you will believe, later you will change, later you will take up the cross. The truth, however, is that no one can guarantee tomorrow. Life is given moment by moment, and only the present is sure. Many have missed their chance because they assumed they had time, hearing the call, but postponing response, until their heart hardened and no longer heeded. That is why I say, today if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart. Hebrews 3:1-5. Delay is a sweet but deadly trap. Another deception sin whispers is unworthiness. You have sinned too much. You are too filthy to come near God. Wait until you are better, clean yourself first. But that is a lie. If you could make yourself good enough, the cross would be unnecessary. It is precisely because you are not worthy that I came to make you worthy. The cross is not for the perfect, but for the broken, the desperate, those who know they need saving. If you wait until you are good enough, you will never come. Come now with all your stains, for only in me are they truly washed. Sin also tempts by swapping eternal joy for fleeting pleasure, painting immediate gratifications as if they could fill the void. But after each pursuit, you only find emptiness, regret, and new chains. The joy I give is different. It springs from spiritual freedom, not from satisfying the flesh. It does not fade, is not stolen by circumstances, and does not depend on possessions. It is deep and enduring, even amid suffering. That joy is what keeps you standing, while counterfeit pleasures only weaken you. Another subtle deception is the belief that I am distant. When you fail, it tells you I have abandoned you. When you sin, it says I will not forgive. When prayers seem unanswered, it says I am silent. Yet the truth is, I have never left you a single moment. I am there in your tears, in your lonely nights, in each sigh. In your weakness, I am nearest. Deceit makes you think I am far away, but my true love is always present. No wall can separate, no darkness can hide, no sin can surpass my forgiveness. Be watchful for how sin operates. It rarely marches with banners, but slips in through compromise, a seemingly harmless lie, a delay that appears insignificant, a choice that does not put me first. Little by little, it distances you. That is why I teach that you must remain vigilant in prayer, cling to my word, and dwell in community. These three, prayer, my word, and fellowship, are the protective wall against all deceit. Never forget the deceit of sin enslaves, whereas my truth sets free. When you believe you are unconditionally loved, wholly forgiven, and called to a new life, you will see chains fall away, no longer bound by the past, no longer governed by fear, no longer imprisoned by indecision. You will walk freely to love, serve, and rejoice. As it is written, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:3-2. The most dangerous lie is that change is unnecessary. It whispers that you can keep the old life and merely add a little outward faith. It tempts you to straddle light and darkness, to hold the cross while keeping your shackles. But you cannot live in two ways at once. You cannot cling to the cross and cling to chains. I call you to choose decisively, for only by letting go of the old can you grasp the new. Remember, deceit may be subtle, but it never prevails over truth. The more you stand in the truth, the weaker sin becomes. The more you cling to the light, the more darkness dissolves. The more you feed the soul with my word, the less room deception has to take root. That is why I urge you not to let deception dim your eyes, but to let the light of restoration lead you. So do not allow deception to delay you another day. Do not let it steal the precious moments you have now. Do not let it bind you with invisible chains. Take up the cross at this very moment. Choose to walk in truth now. Every moment you delay is a moment darkness gains root. But each moment you choose obedience, light bursts forth. Imagine yourself as one entrusted with translating this message. Act now to bring it into practice. My child, I have given you healing so that your body might be free. Now I desire that your soul also enter into that freedom. I have given you joy to console your heart. Now I want that joy to become a strength to resist every temptation. I have called you out of darkness into the light, and now I call you to continue walking in that light so that you may become a lamp for many others. When you live this way, you will bear witness that grace is stronger than sin, that truth is greater than falsehood, and that light always triumphs over darkness. My beloved, I speak to you now with all urgency and love. Do not postpone taking up the cross. No decision in your life is more important than this one, for it determines not only your present destiny, but eternity itself. Sin whispers, "Wait a little longer, there's no need to hurry." But I declare to you, behold, now is the favorable time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. 2 Corinthians 6:2. If you do not decide today, you allow tomorrow's uncertainty to blur the light of the present. Consider the hourglass. Each grain of sand falls quietly and slowly, yet its fall cannot be reversed. So it is with every moment of your life. Time passes and never returns. Sin makes you believe the grains will last forever, but the truth is that the hourglass of life is limited. There have been souls who waited too long thinking they had time, and then the final moment came like a thief in the night. Do not let that be your story. The cross is the way out the door of life, but you must step through while it remains open. One of darkness's great deceptions is to plant in your heart the notion that you can remain neutral, neither choosing the cross nor rejecting it. But neutrality is an illusion. Not choosing the light is allowing darkness to prevail. Not stepping toward life is remaining in death. You cannot stand forever on the threshold. The wind never ceases to blow, and if you do not move, it will push you backward. I invite you, step in. My child, I know that sometimes your hesitation is not from lack of faith, but from fear of loss. You think, if I follow the cross, I will lose familiar pleasures, comfort, a part of my old self. Yet remember, whatever you relinquish for me, you will receive back 100-fold. When you cast off your chains, you gain freedom. When you leave darkness, you take on light. When you abandon emptiness, you receive fullness. When you relinquish fleeting pleasures, you inherit everlasting joy. The cross does not rob you of life, it gives you true, abundant life. Delay endangers not only you, but also those watching your life. Perhaps within your family, someone is waiting for you to become a light that leads them to me. Perhaps in your community, there are weak ones who need to see your choice for encouragement. Each day you delay is another day they are deprived of a living witness. I have chosen you, not merely for your own rescue, but to be a doorway for many others to pass through. When you decide to embrace the cross, you change not just your life, but the destiny of many. I know you may think the cross is a burden. You fear that following me requires too great a sacrifice. But remember, I do not call you to bear a crushing load. I call you to come and find rest. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Matthew 1:1-8:30. The cross is not chains, but the key to freedom. Not a burden, but the path to true rest. When you take up the cross, you will discover that what you thought you lost becomes your reward, and what you feared to be an end becomes a beginning. Look to the history of faith. Abraham did not delay when I called. He immediately left his homeland and went to the promised land. Moses did not hesitate when I called him to lead the people out of Egypt. The disciples instantly left their nets and boats and professions to follow me. Had they delayed, history might have been different, but because they decided at once, they entered journeys that changed the world. Likewise, your decision today can open a story you never dared to dream. This urgency is not meant to frighten you, but to set you free. I know if you do not decide, you will remain trapped in anxious cycles of doubt and fear. But if you choose the cross, you will step out of that loop into a life of freedom and peace. Nothing compares to the experience of being forgiven, loved, and belonging. Nothing equals the assurance that whatever storms come, you have a protector, a guide, and one who never abandons you. My child, I remind you, this is the moment of decision. Not tomorrow, not when you feel better, not when circumstances are favorable now. I do not ask you to be perfect before coming. I only ask whether you are willing to surrender yourself. When you say, yes, I will do the rest. When you open your heart, I will enter. When you take the first step, I will guide the whole journey. The choice you make today alters not only your life, but eternity. A single decision in a moment can open a door that never closes. When you receive the cross, you are not merely healed in body or restored in soul, you are sealed for everlasting life. Every tear will be wiped away, every suffering will become memory, and you will enter unfading joy. Decide today. Let go of delay, cast off fear, overcome doubt. The cross awaits. The door of life stands open. I spread my arms wide. This is the hour to step in. This is the day of salvation. This is the instant of transformation. Do not hesitate, another second. Heaven itself awaits your yes. My beloved, when you open your heart to receive the cross, you do not step into a mere religious symbol. You step into the very center of history and eternity. The cross is not two wooden beams fixed in a distant past. It is the meeting place where heaven and earth converge, where justice and love intertwine, where death and life exchange places. Centuries have passed, empires have risen and fallen, philosophies have come and gone, yet the cross stands firm, not as a relic, but as a living reality, touching every soul. Justice demands that sin be judged. No sin can be overlooked without consequence. If God were to ignore justice, he would no longer be righteous. But love longs to forgive, to redeem, to restore. If there were only justice, humanity would perish. If there were only love without justice, holiness would be compromised. Only on the cross are both preserved. Justice is fulfilled as sin is judged, and love pours forth as humanity is forgiven. Thus, the cross is the ultimate answer to the paradox that philosophy, religion, and all human wisdom cannot resolve. When you look upon the cross, do not see only suffering, but the birth of new life. The sentence that belonged to you fell upon one who took it in your place. The chains that once bound you are broken at their root. The accusations that haunted you are erased. From this emerges a new identity. You are no longer forsaken but beloved, no longer a slave but free, no longer defeated but victorious by grace. The cross does not merely free you from condemnation, it bestows upon you a new citizenship in the eternal kingdom. The cross is also the foundation of hope. Previously, thoughts of the future stirred only uncertainty and fear. Now, because of the cross, you know that all things are under sovereign care. Suffering becomes a refining instrument of faith. Death is no longer the finality, for it is swallowed up in resurrection. Weakness is not disgrace, for in weakness my power is perfected. The cross alters the lens through which you view life, no longer a random current, but a guided pilgrimage. No longer a dead end of despair, but a path toward glory. I want you to understand that this hope is not reserved for some distant tomorrow, but applies to this very present. When discouragement threatens, the cross reminds you you are loved. When you fail, the cross tells you you are forgiven. When the way home seems too far, remember the veil was torn. Matthew 27:5-1, and the passage is opened. Everything you need, pardon, freedom, life, has been provided. You do not have to earn it. You only need to walk by faith, and you will find the life and rest promised. From the cross, you also receive a new mission. You were not saved merely to enjoy personal peace, but to become a witness to love and justice. When you forgive an offender, you reflect the cross. When you choose truth over compromise, you embody its spirit. When you love despite betrayal, you carry the cross on your shoulder. That mission is not a burden, but an honor, for through it the world sees light that does not originate in human effort, but in my power working through you. The cross grants you a new community, the family of faith. It reconciles you not only with me, but with others. Within that community you find brothers and sisters to strengthen you when weary, to encourage you when faltering, to share your load. There, people who differ in status, wealth, or power are equal at the foot of the cross. All are sinners redeemed by grace. Understand that the cross is not a past event only. It is a living power for the present. It is not the place where I died simply once, but the source from which you are reborn. From it you embark on a new journey, a journey of freedom, hope, and love. Henceforth your life is no longer defined by failures, fears, or wounds. It is defined by the cross, where love overcame sin, life overcame death, and light dispelled darkness. From that foundation you can walk with the confidence that nothing, neither death nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, nor present, nor future, can separate you from my love. Romans 8:3-8:39. Each day you live from now on will become a hymn of thanksgiving. When you open your eyes at dawn, let it remind you that life was purchased at great cost. Every breath is the rhythm of grace at work. Every prayer is proof that the wall between us has been torn down. When you choose love over hatred, truth over falsehood, hope over despair, you make the cross alive in the world. You become a living letter of grace, written not in ink, but in the very breath and actions of your daily life. I call you not to treat the cross as a closed chapter, but to live constantly in its power. Let the cross guide every decision. Let it launch every dream. Let it anchor your soul in the storm. Let it kindle the courage to step into new fields of mission. In doing so, your life will cease to be merely a private story and will become part of the grand portrait of redemption. My beloved, now that you have acknowledged the cross as the foundation of your new life, I invite you to go deeper and grasp the mystery of the atoning sacrifice. Nothing in human history compares with that event, for it was not merely the death of an innocent, but the meeting point of justice and love, the decisive act that changed the eternal destiny of all creation. Every line of history, every prophecy, every sacrificial act in the past led to that moment, and from it a permanent way of return to God was opened for humanity. First, understand that on the cross, justice was fully satisfied. The universe cannot endure if justice is neglected. Sin is not a trivial mistake. It is rebellion against the Creator and a denial of His rightful authority. For the wages of sin is death, Romans 6:2-3. If justice were ignored, cosmic order would collapse. Yet I chose to take your place and bear the sentence justice demanded. On the cross, the sentence was executed, not annulled, and it was executed upon my own body. Therefore, you are no longer under condemnation but live in freedom. At the same time, love was manifested to the utmost. Justice can punish, but love stoops to redeem. I did not send angels to die in your stead, nor did I offer animal sacrifices. I, the Holy One, clothed myself in frailty and bore the suffering you deserved. But God demonstrates His own love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Romans 5:8. Reflect on this. Love does not wait for you to become worthy before it gives. It gives when you are at your worst. No proof exceeds this love marked by nails. Because of that sacrifice, the way back to the Creator is opened. From Eden's fall, a thick curtain separated God, and humankind feared death and sin erected a wall none could breach. But when I cried out the final word, the temple veil was rent from top to bottom, Matthew 2:7-5:1, signifying that the path is now open. There is no longer need for repeated ritual sacrifices or labyrinthine regulations. The cross is the once-for-all sufficient sacrifice that cleanses sin completely. He has offered one sacrifice for sins forever, Hebrews 1:0-1-2. That work is finished. Imagine a man lost in a parched desert, exhausted and dying of thirst with no paths visible. Suddenly a road appears that leads to cool water. The lost person cannot make that road. It is given. The cross is that way. You cannot save yourself or construct the path. By the pouring out of blood, the way has been opened. You only need to walk by faith, and you will find life, rest, and peace. The atonement is decisive and complete. In the Old Covenant, the blood of sheep and bulls was offered yearly, but it never removed sin finally. It foreshadowed what was to come. When I came, I became the perfect lamb, the spotless, offering to provide a once-for-all sacrifice. He has offered one sacrifice for sins forever. Hebrews 1:0-1:2. From that declaration, no further sacrifice is required. No more blood is necessary. The work is accomplished. When I cried, "It is finished," I did not sigh in defeat but proclaimed victory. Let this truth sink deep. The sacrifice proves your infinite worth. The world may appraise you by possessions or status, but you are valued by the cost of a life given. If the entire universe contained only you, I would still have gone to the cross. That means you are not an accident, a burden, or meaningless. You are a treasure purchased with blood. A treasure like that will never be abandoned. Do not assume the atonement concerns only the past. It touches your life now. When guilt accuses, remember, justice has been met. When doubt assails your heart, look to the cross and see love engraved in history. When the road home looks too far, remember the veil was torn and the path is open. Everything you need, forgiveness, freedom, life, has been provided. You do not have to earn it. You may simply walk in grace. The sacrifice also secures a spiritual victory. The cross does not merely pardon sin, it strips away the power of darkness. He disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in Him. Colossians 2:1-5. You need not live in fear of unseen enemies. The chains are broken. The gates of prison are flung wide. You are not a captive, but a free person stepping into the light. Remember, this atonement is personal. It is not an abstract gift to a nameless crowd, it is for you. Do not say He died for humanity as if you are excluded. He died for each soul, including yours. When the blood flowed, your name was in His thoughts. As the nails pierced hands, He thought of you. When He breathed His last, it was to grant you life. Let the sacrifice be the basis for every choice you make. When you forgive, recall you were forgiven at the cost of blood. When you choose love, remember, love has already been shown to its uttermost. When trials come, remember that victory has been secured. When you feel worthless, remember the price paid to claim you is beyond measure. The cross is not mere theology. It is the breath of every moment. My beloved, now ascend with me another step. Realize that the cross has redefined love and justice for humanity. Since the cross stood on Golgotha, people no longer view love and justice as abstract concepts. They have become living realities engraved in blood and tears, reshaping relationships, civilizations, and the longings of the soul. In the past, justice in the eyes of man was often tied to retribution. Whoever did wrong had to pay the price. Love in the eyes of man was often tied to emotion, loving when it was convenient, when the other seemed worthy. But on the cross, justice and love were redefined. Justice was no longer merely retribution, but righteousness fulfilled through self-giving. Love was no longer merely a feeling, but a choice of sacrifice for the sake of others, even when they were undeserving. This was a revolution in human understanding, a revolution born from the cry in the darkness, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Luke 2:3-4. From that moment on, mankind was invited to live love according to a new model, to love not only when love is returned, but to love even enemies. Justice was no longer simply punishment, but justice united with mercy. This is why Paul wrote, "We preach Christ crucified, the power of God and the wisdom of God." 1 Corinthians 1-2-3-24. In the eyes of the world, the cross may appear foolish, but in the eyes of those being saved, it is the new definition of wisdom and power. The cross also transformed how humanity understands life and death. Once death was the ultimate enemy, the inevitable end. But since I stepped forth from the empty tomb, death has lost its power. It is no longer the end, but a doorway into glory. Life is no longer confined to a few fleeting decades on earth, but becomes an eternal stream that begins the moment you believe. Thus, the cross not only offers comfort in the present, but opens an eternal vision that every sorrow will pass, every tear will be wiped away, and love will be the only song that remains. My child, the power of the cross does not stop at the personal level, but flows outward to society and history. How many civilizations have been transformed by those who lived in the spirit of the cross, choosing love instead of hatred, service instead of domination, forgiveness instead of vengeance. Hospitals, schools, human rights movements, the abolition of slavery, all trace their roots to this principle that sacrificial love is the only power that can change the world. The cross is not merely a religious symbol, but a force for justice, for peace, for the renewal of society. I want you to know that the cross also shapes your own legacy. When you live in its light, you leave to the next generation an inheritance not of silver or gold, but of faith, hope, and love. You may not leave behind worldly fame, but if you pass on to your children and grandchildren faith in the cross, you have given them a treasure eternal. Every small act of love, every tear in prayer, every moment of faithfulness in trial, all become seeds planted in history, seeds that will grow into the tree of life for generations to come. I know there will be times when you are tempted to forget the meaning of the cross. The world will try to convince you it is nothing more than an old relic, no longer relevant. But remember, the cross is never outdated. It remains the only power that can transform the human heart. Weapons may conquer territories, but only sacrificial love conquers souls. Philosophies may shape thoughts, but only the cross transforms lives. Governments may impose laws, but only the cross writes upon the heart the higher law, the law of love. When you step out of your own darkness to live beneath the light of the cross, you will find life takes on an entirely new meaning. Pain is no longer meaningless, for it is bound to sacrifice. Joy is no longer fleeting, for it springs from eternity. Relationships are no longer battlefields of competition, but opportunities to love as I have loved. And justice is no longer revenge, but justice soaked in mercy, reflecting the righteousness of the cross. I call you not to see the cross merely as a historical event, but to let it become the standard for your daily life. When you forgive, remember the cry, "Forgive them." When you love, remember the blood that was shed. When you choose righteousness, remember that justice was fulfilled. When you grow weary, remember that victory has already been declared. The cross must be the air you breathe, the lamp you follow, the foundation upon which you build your life. And my child, one day, when you stand before the throne of glory, you will see that everything born at the cross leads to the crown. Every tear shed will be wiped away. Every pain endured will be turned into glory. Every small yes you whispered to me will resound as a great song in eternity. And then you will understand that choosing the way of the cross was not merely selecting an ethical path, but choosing the only road that leads to life. My beloved, after you have climbed each step of the journey from the beginning and healing to the triumph at the cross, now I want you to see the whole tapestry I have woven. The entire message is not just words on a page, but the living call from the heart of God to your soul. This is not a scattered tale, but the complete story of redemption, a journey that begins in weakness, passes through transformation, and ends in glory. Remember first that this journey begins with healing. I touch the wounds of your body and your soul to show you that no pain lies outside my embrace. From blurred eyes to hidden scars, within the heart my hand has brought healing. Miracles were not confined to medicine, but flowed in every cell, every heartbeat, every tear. You learned that miracles are not distant events, but present realities that faith can touch. Then you entered the school of suffering. Suffering was not immediately removed, but transformed into lessons. In suffering, you learned humility, for it reminded you that you are not the center of the universe. You learned compassion, for your own pain enabled you to feel the pain of others. You learned inner strength, for only when all outward supports crumble do you discover the power of God within. Thus, suffering was not the final enemy, but a hidden teacher leading you to maturity. And then you stepped into the joy of restoration. This was not fleeting happiness, but enduring joy, the joy of knowing your life has meaning, of knowing that no wound is wasted when placed in God's hands. You discovered that restoration does not mean returning to what once was, but being raised to something new, where scars become testimony, weakness becomes strength, and darkness becomes the canvas for light. This joy not only sustains you, but becomes a beacon to those in despair. The journey did not end there. You were invited into the dawn of the mission. Once healed and restored, you could no longer live for yourself alone. You became a witness, a lighthouse for others. You were called to sow seeds for the generations to come, to live the legacy of love, to build a community of light. Personal healing became the foundation for communal transformation. You learned that no one is saved to live in isolation. Every grace is given to be shared, to serve, to ripple outward. Yet even in this light you face the urgency of decision. Sin always seeks to deceive, whispering that there is more time, that you are not ready, that short-lived pleasures are worth more than eternal joy. But the truth is, this every day of delay gives darkness deeper roots. That is why I call you to choose the cross today, this very moment. That decision not only alters your present, but your eternity. It is the only doorway into life. And finally, the journey leads you to the cross, the center of the universe. Here, justice is fulfilled, love is revealed, and the way back is opened. The cross is not only a moment in history, but a new definition of love and justice. Love is no longer a fragile feeling, but a sacrifice to the end. Justice is no longer mere retribution, but mercy-filled righteousness. The cross reshapes how you see life and death, how you live relationships, how you leave a legacy. It is not the end, but the beginning of all things made new. This entire journey is like a tapestry woven of countless threads. The thread of suffering intertwines with the thread of healing, the thread of tears with the thread of hope, the thread of difficult choices with the thread of eternal triumph. And above all, the hand of God is the master weaver, turning every strand into harmony. If you look only at one strand, you may not understand, but when the tapestry is complete, you will see that every detail had its reason. Thus, the great lesson of this entire journey is this: nothing in your life is meaningless. Suffering becomes a teacher. Failure becomes a stepping stone to growth. Joy becomes testimony. Restoration becomes the foundation of the mission. And the cross becomes the key that opens every door. You are not the product of chance, but the fruit of an eternal design, woven in love, secured in justice, and completed in sacrifice. Now I invite you to live as a witness. Do not keep only for yourself what you have seen and heard. Become a song in a world still filled with cries. Become a light in the midst of night. Become the hand that lifts another. When you live this way, your life will become a hymn of love, a living book of grace, a river flowing with life. And finally, know that the journey does not end here. It will continue day by day until you meet me face to face. But you already possess all that is needed: healing to begin, joy to endure, mission to walk in, and the cross as your foundation. Walk in the assurance that nothing can separate you from my love. No darkness can quench the light you bear. No power can destroy the hope you hold. Live, love, and serve, and let your life become the testimony that the cross is still alive, still powerful, still transforming souls to the very end of the age. Thank you for receiving this message today. Subscribe and activate the bell of reminder so that together we may embrace the words of life, build unshakable faith, and walk in the boundless love of Christ. Amen.